I will draw the opening of this presentation, this analysis, from Shakespeare, written 1564 to 1616, and the play is Julius Caesar. The original author, Mark Antony. And here it says, if you have tears, prepare to shed them now. The greatest British writer, poet, had provided the most appropriate opening statement in response to the announcement by the Vice President, Professor Pastor Yemi Osinbajo. What we have in Nigeria right now is not a case of the blind leading the blind. If it was so, that situation can be easily corrected. Our situation would have furnished materials for a great comedy. If it does not portend a great tragedy unfolding, what we are experiencing is a puzzling case of the blind attempting to lead not only blind people like them, but clear-eyed individuals as well. The Vice President of Nigeria might be a brilliant lawyer, schooled abroad, had a lot of things going for him, but he is an atrocious economist. His first 4 years as a leader of the Economic Management Team, EMT, led Nigeria to the brink of a total economic catastrophe. And the sooner he steps aside, the better for everybody. Promises like pie crust are made to be broken. This is by John Swift, 1667-1745. The Buhari's administration has broken every promise made with its annual budgets and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP, shamelessly. Nobody in that government has demonstrated the decency of showing remorse for each target missed and plan bungled. They just go on and release another whooper attempt out of contempt for fellow Nigerians. Nigerians need to be reminded that when Osinbajo's EMT announced the first budget 2016, it was the first insight we received that our economy was in serious trouble, serious catastrophe, because the EMT comprised of cheap propagandists who were promising more than what they could ever deliver. They pledged 3.0% gross domestic product, GDP, growth in 2016. We ended with minus 1.4%. and a recession which real economists, unlike their own voodoo economists, had predicted accurately for 4 years. The EMT led us to a cumulative GDP growth of less than 1.5%, while population galloped along at over 3.0%. They got richer and Nigerians got poorer. Nigerians got poorer. And oftentimes you see them, they blame PDP. They blamed PDP. And one would ask, all the money that they got back, what happened? And if they know who stole, why haven't they gone after the person? Why haven't they gone after the person who stole this money? Now, for those who do not know much more about what GDP is, gross domestic product, GDP, abbreviated GDP, is the total value of goods and services produced in a country. That is what it means. GDP is measured over specific time frames, such as a quarter or a year. GDP as an economic indicator is used worldwide to show the economic health of a country. For low income or middle income countries, high year-on-year GDP growth is essential to meet the growing needs of the population. So GDP has something to also do with the number of population. Hence, the GDP growth, for example, of India is an essential indicator of the country's economic development and progress, Besides measuring the health of the economy and helping the government in framing policies, the GDP growth rate numbers are also useful for investors in better decision making related to investment. Now, different countries have different methods to calculate their GDP. So let us go further on this issue. Buhari, in his inaugural address, actually promised that the federal government would employ 500,000 graduates as teachers among the fantasies released as targets to be achieved during his first term. Instead, graduate unemployment rose. No remorse for deceiving the young people. When recession hit in 2016 and was about to be followed by 0.8% GDP growth in 2017, the federal government hastily introduced the Economic Recovery and Growth Program, ARGP, in April 2017. At the launching, Osinbajo spoke like a real lawyer, meaning he did not actually expect intelligent people to believe what he said. Again, among the delusions set forth in the ARGP was the promise to create 15 million jobs. The ARGP was buried recently. No jobs were created. Instead, more jobs were lost. And without apologies or remorse, the VP is once again making more promises which will not be kept. Here's what he said. He said, to this end, the federal government developed the NESP, National Economic Sustainability Plan, with a stimulus package of 2.3 trillion to give fill up to the economy across various sectors. To begin with, Nigerians must ask themselves if they have any reason to continue to believe a government which has proved so invariably untrustworthy. Gamblers and forecasters now know how to fix the odds for a team which had lost the last 10 matches in a row when it steps out for the next one, especially when it fields the same set of players or clones of the same habitual losers. The Buhari economic team is essentially the same set of fumblers. The VP knows very little economics. The president knows even far less. In fact, he knows nothing. The Minister of Finance, Budget and Planning can only occupy that position in Nigeria. She can never, ever occupy that anywhere else in the world. Only in Nigeria. Despite the surfeit of the world-class economists in the country, we have so much of them. The truth is, this team and its game plan are failure written all over it, even before the NESP gets underway. They don't know how to prepare annual budgets or medium-term projections. They certainly cannot execute even the dreadful plans they propose. Just take a look at the results in the last 5 years. How they determined that 2 trillion stimulus is what we need was not explained. Apparently, we are supposed to accept the words of Osinbajo, who for 5 years has been bearing false witnesses each and every time he speaks on the economy. Well, as P.T. Barnum said, a soccer fool is born every minute. Furthermore, how we will source the funds is shrouded in mystery as usual. Judging from the track record of the last 5 years, they will most probably take a begging bow to China again and pile more debt on our children and grandchildren. And of course, as you know what it is, they've already mortgaged the country, sold the country to China. Meanwhile, most of the funds borrowed will not be given away, wasted and stolen, of course. Not invested on projects designed to repay the loans, as sensible leaders of advancing nations often do. While all the observations made above are important, the most troubling aspect of the VP's introduction of the NESP is related to the timing and methodology of arriving at the decision. Only recently, the Minister of State for Budget and Planning, Mr. Clem Agba, announced that the failure of ARGP called for starting from scratch to formulate a new plan, the NESP, that was about the only sensible statement that has come out of his officialdom since 2015. One would have expected that a fresh start will entail getting all segments of the Nigerian society involved in charting the new future, especially young people. After all, the future the government is storing belongs more to the youth than to the people who are 70 or above. A forum should have been created for all professional associations, NLC, ASUU, ASU, NANS, pensioners, etc., to make inputs into this program and to build a consensus around the outcome. Inclusiveness in this case should not be a gimmick to reduce objections to the plan. It should aim to tap into the hidden genius of the Nigerian people in a way that will stimulate active support instead of inducing customary passive acceptance, which remains the bane of most government programs. What we now have represents an ambush. The federal government has decided our future without involving us, and the attitude is take it or leave it. Nigerians will mostly leave it, and that is why it won't work. It is Buhari's plan, not ours. Nigeria must also ask what role the Economic Advisory Council, EAC, headed by Mr. Doyin Salami, played in shaping the NESP, where they consulted, and does the final plan reflect their inputs? They, at least, are economists, without any attempt to invest them with the aura of infallibility. I think Nigerians will feel better if they know that professionals had a heavy hand in the outcome. Just as we will all sleep easier if we know that the health professionals, doctors, nurses, radiologists, X-ray technicians, pharmacists, etc. are in charge of the COVID-19 and not mechanics in fine suits. So how much influence did the EAC have on the ESP? If they had none, it would be safe to ask that they should be disbanded, because it is difficult to imagine a more important reason for their appointment. In the end, we are faced with the same question we ask every time. The government announces economic plans and programs. Will NESP work? Unfortunately, the answer remains the same. No, not bloody likely. Reasons for the answers will follow in the weeks ahead. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Please do come to the comment section. If you are an economist, accountant, if you are someone who understands more, you can relate to this, and let's see the way out.